What's going on, guys? This your boy John the Liquidator coming back with another video, man. So it looked like a Shedeur Sanders insider. YM Book takes the
The world of professional sports is often viewed through the lens of Sunday afternoons, the bright lights of the stadium, and the viral highlights that dominate our social media feeds, but the reality of greatness is far more mundane, grueling, and often lonely. It is built in the quiet hours of the morning and the exhausted silence of the late night, long after the cameras have stopped rolling and the fans have gone home. Recently, we've been given a rare, unfiltered look into this private world through the lens of Shedeur Sanders, a young athlete who isn't just preparing for a season but is actively architecting a legacy that aims to transcend the game itself. The narrative surrounding Shedeur has often been clouded by the fame of his father, Deshaun Sanders, and the primetime brand, but the recent updates coming out of his camp tell a story that has very little to do with flash and everything to do with substance. We are seeing a level of intentionality that is rarely witnessed in college athletes, a systematic approach to excellence that treats.
Subscribe to the tribe, click that like button, hype the video. And y'all already know, man, we got to jump right into this thing. So those of you guys who do not know, Shedeur Sanders is back in Cleveland, getting it in.
What I do is, after the lift
training
or run,
Every hour of the day is a resource to be exploited in the pursuit of perfection. This isn't just about talent, it's about a psychological commitment to being undeniable, a trait that is becoming increasingly relevant as we look at the shifting landscape of the NFL, particularly the deteriorating situation with the Cleveland Browns and their current franchise quarterback, Deshaun Watson. The footage and updates we've seen from Shedeur's inner circle, specifically through insights shared by those like YM Book, reveal a daily routine that would break most people before the sun even comes up. Imagine starting your day at 5:30 a.m., not just for a quick jog, but for a high-intensity physical gauntlet that involves lifting, running, and specialized drills designed to push the human body to its absolute limit. But for Shedeur, the physical work is only the foundation. By the time 10:42 a.m. rolls around, most people are just settling into their second cup of coffee. Yet Shedeur is.
And man, I normally don't play this show, but we're gonna listen to him this
Don't
morning.
care if you're a mediocre quarterback, pretty good quarterback, or great. You got to play a quarterback.
you have to.
And he didn't play it at all for a year, over a year.
Already transitioning from the field to the boardroom, handling business calls and managing a brand that is already one of the most valuable in all of sports. The most striking aspect of this routine isn't just the volume of work, but the recovery and the mental preparation that follows. We see him in ice baths, not looking for relief, but looking for the physiological reset required to go back into the fire. The commitment to the playbook is perhaps the most telling indicator of his professional mindset. Even in the late hours, he is on Zoom calls, dissecting film, analyzing defensive schemes, and mastering the mental geometry of the quarterback position. At 12:10 a.m., when the rest of the world is asleep, Shedeur is still documented as being in the lab, preparing for a tomorrow that starts only a few hours later. This isn't a performance for the cameras, it's a lifestyle of extreme discipline that suggests he is already operating as an NFL veteran while still wearing a college jersey. This level of dedication brings us to a fundamental truth in sports: being a top earner or a top-tier athlete doesn't happen by accident, and it certainly isn't maintained through luck. As the captions in these updates suggest, the best brands aren't built overnight, and they aren't built by people who are looking for the exit. There is a profound intentionality behind every move Shedeur makes. While other young stars might be distracted by the trappings of fame, the parties, the nightlife, the distractions that come with being a household name, Shedeur seems to have built a fortress around his focus. This all work, no play mentality is what separates the good from the great, and the stars from the superstars. It's a philosophy shared by his teammate Travis Hunter, and together they are setting a standard at Colorado that is essentially a professional developmental program disguised as a college team. They understand that the work you do when no one is watching is the only thing that matters when the world is watching. This isn't just about winning games in the Big 12, it's about preparing for the 2026 NFL battle, ensuring that when he steps onto a professional stage, he isn't just a rookie, but a finished product ready to lead a franchise.
If Deshaun's body, for a million different reasons, just simply isn't able to stand up and hold up during the rigors of an NFL season, then just play Shedeur, see what you got, and then make a determination at the end of the 2026 season whether or not he's the quarterback moving forward, or whether you have to go out and draft or find another one. There's no benefit to playing
franchise from day one. However, as Shedeur Sanders ascends through sheer force of will, a very different and much more concerning story is unfolding in Cleveland with Deshaun Watson. The Cleveland Browns made one of the most aggressive and controversial moves in NFL history when they traded for Watson and handed him a fully guaranteed $250 million contract. The expectation was that he would be the final piece of a championship puzzle, the elite playmaker who could elevate a talented roster to the Super Bowl. Instead, the Watson era in Cleveland has been defined by absences, rust, and now, a recurring theme of shoulder fatigue that is sending shockwaves through the Browns fanbase and the local media. Reports are emerging from training camps and mini-camps that Watson's arm isn't just tired, it's tailing off. For a quarterback whose game relies on precision, velocity, and the ability to drive the ball downfield, hearing that his shoulder is fatigued in early July before a single hit has been taken in a regular season game is nothing short of a red flag. The Cleveland media, usually defensive of their team, is starting to sound the alarm, questioning whether Watson's body can even withstand the rigors of a full NFL season anymore. The tragedy of the Watson situation is the contrast between his current state and his former glory. There was a time in Houston when Deshaun...
As a pro or become a household name or become a bigger brand, I posted for y'all to see that too, so you could understand, like, you got work to do, bro, because this is how hard somebody is working. Like, while you got other obligations, other things that you're trying to, fill your time with, it's people out here who are committed to real life, getting it in, and yeah, man, like, so yeah, and you doing all this just on to wake up tomorrow and do it all over again before we hit the road.
Watson was arguably the most exciting young quarterback in the league, a dual-threat nightmare for defensive coordinators who possessed an uncanny ability to create magic out of chaos. But after a long layoff from the game and a series of devastating injuries, including a complex shoulder issue that required surgery, that version of Watson feels like a distant memory. The technical analysis of his current struggle is grim. If a professional quarterback is experiencing fatigue during unpadded, low-pressure drills in June and July, what happens in October when a 300-pound defensive lineman is landing on that same shoulder? The reality is that the NFL is a league of availability, and Watson's availability has been compromised for years.
The extra work around the clock when no one is looking. The best brands aren't built overnight and not by accident. This here is intentional. You get out what you put in, and guys, if it's one person that...
The Browns have built a roster designed to win right now, with an elite defense and a powerful run game, but the quarterback position remains a massive, expensive question mark that threatens to derail the entire organization. This brings us to a potential crossroads in the 2026 season, a year that could see the paths of the rising Shedeur Sanders and the struggling Cleveland Browns converge in a spectacular fashion. The media in Cleveland is already starting to whisper the name Shedeur Sanders.
Lots changed.
Sheesh. And so to be at the top of your game, you have to be doing it all the time. It doesn't have to be every ball on the money. It doesn't have to be every game or every practice is great, but you have to be doing it all the time. And he hasn't been doing it at all.
No. I wasn't at any of the minicamp OTAs practices. They happened during the show, which is why we're not able to get out there. So I'm just going off what Mary Kay said,
as a potential savior. The logic is simple, albeit brutal for Watson supporters. If Deshaun Watson cannot stay healthy, or if his performance continues to tail off due to lingering physical limitations, the Browns cannot afford to wait. They have too much talent on the rest of the roster to waste another year in mediocrity. Shedeur Sanders represents everything the Browns currently lack.
I tell you.
So that's what they're saying on the streets of Cleveland. That something is definitely much wrong with Deshaun Watson arm based on reports. I don't want to hear nothing about it was last year. This is old. None of that. This is new. As y'all can hear, your favorite show just stated the Deshaun Watson
at the position, durability, a modern psychological approach to the game, and a work ethic that ensures he is always game ready. The prospect of Shedeur in a Browns uniform is becoming a favorite topic for draft analysts and sports talk radio, as he fits the mold of a quarterback who can handle the pressure of a high-stakes environment like Cleveland. While Watson struggles to get through a practice session without his arm fatiguing, Shedeur is posting videos of himself training at 2 a.m., creating a narrative of two athletes moving in opposite directions, one toward the sunset of a troubled career, and the other toward the dawn of a new era. When we analyze the work ethic videos of Shedeur, we have to look beyond the surface level of a grind montage. We are looking at a young man who has been raised in the spotlight and has decided that the only way to survive it is to be better than everyone else. He isn't running home to see what girls he can meet or what club he can get into, he is running back to the film room. He is putting the right things into his body, he is studying the playbook until it becomes muscle memory, and he is maintaining a level of focus that is almost robotic in its precision. This is the pro mindset before the pro contract. It is an understanding that the distractions of the world are the enemies of greatness. By posting these updates, his camp isn't just showing off, they are sending a message to every NFL GM and scout: this is what you're getting. They are showing the work outside of the work and the work in between the work. For a team like the Browns, who have seen the disastrous results of a quarter,
They wouldn't normally make it any other time.
No, not really.
There's no reason for his shoulder to be fatigued in minicamp. So what happens when training camp happens? And there's more of a competition. There's more emphasis on the accuracy and the zip.
back who isn't fully synchronized with the grind, the appeal of a player like Shedeur becomes undeniable. The skepticism surrounding Watson in Cleveland isn't just about one bad practice, it's about a pattern of physical breakdown that dates back years. He has dealt with 2 Achilles tears, an ACL tear during his time in Houston, and now this weird shoulder injury that has no real precedent for a quick or guaranteed recovery in the NFL. The sports analysts are right to point out that there is no reason for a franchise quarterback to be experiencing fatigue in July. This should be the period where he is at his most refreshed, his most explosive, and his most confident. If the fatigue is already setting in now, the outlook for a 17-game season plus a potential playoff run is virtually non-existent. It raises the uncomfortable question: is Deshaun Watson's body simply done? Has the accumulation of major surgeries and long periods of inactivity robbed him of the physical tools required to compete at the highest level? If the answer is even a maybe, then the Browns have a responsibility to look elsewhere, and the 2026 draft class, spearheaded by Shedeur Sanders, offers a lifeline that could save the franchise from a decade of irrelevance.
Even a conversation in the beginning of July before training camp opens up tells me that the Browns have one and one option only at quarterback, and that's Shedeur Sanders. Because if Mary Kay and her vision and observation of the fatigue is real, the fact that
there is a certain irony in the fact that Shedeur Sanders is often criticized for his confidence or his swagger, yet it is that very confidence, rooted in thousands of hours of unseen labor, that makes him the perfect candidate for a high-pressure job in the NFL. He has the ice in his veins that comes from knowing he has outworked his opponent before the game even starts. In Cleveland, a city that lives and dies with its football team, they don't just need a talented quarterback, they need a leader who can command the room and a worker who can inspire the locker room. The reports of Watson's arm tailing off are the opposite of inspirational. They are demoralizing for a team that knows its window for a championship is limited. The contrast couldn't be sharper. One man is struggling to stay afloat in a situation he's already been paid for, while the other is drowning himself in work for a situation he hasn't even reached yet. The 2026 season is looming, and it feels like the year when the hype around Shedeur Sanders finally meets the harsh reality of the NFL's most desperate quarterback situations. Ultimately, the story of Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson is a story about the cost of greatness and the fragility of a career. For Shedeur, the cost is his youth, his social life, and his comfort. He is paying that price willingly every single night at 12 a.m. For Watson, the cost might be his legacy, as his body seems to be telling him that the price of 24/7 elite performance is something it can no longer pay. As we move closer to the 2026 season, the shoulder fatigue in Cleveland,
with the weird shoulder injury that there's never been a precedent for in the NFL, and you add all that together, and I'm thinking to myself saying, there's not a chance in hell this guy is going to be healthy enough.
Will remain the most watched medical chart in sports, while the lab in Colorado will continue to produce a quarterback who looks more like an elite professional with every passing day. Whether Shedeur ends up in the orange and brown of Cleveland or another NFL city, the message is clear: the league is changing, and the era of the part-time or injured superstar is being replaced by a new generation of all-in athletes who understand that to stay at the top, you can never truly stop working. The battle for the future of the quarterback position is being won right now, in the dark, while the rest of the world is sleeping. The implications for the Cleveland Browns are dire if they don't find a solution quickly. They have invested.
Where are we going to be at in October? There's no way that ends well. There's no way. Maybe 0.0000001% chance. And if that's the case,
more into Watson than perhaps any team has ever invested in a single player, and yet the return on investment has been almost non-existent. If they are forced to pivot to a player like Shedeur Sanders in 2026, it would represent one of the most dramatic Plan B scenarios in sports history. But it might be the only way to salvage the prime years of their elite defensive stars and their championship-caliber offensive line. Fans are tired of excuses, they are tired of rust, and they are certainly tired of hearing about fatigue before the preseason even begins. They want a quarterback who is as committed to the city as they are, and someone who brings the same intensity to the playbook that they bring to the stands. Shedeur Sanders, with his intentional approach and his refusal to be distracted by anything but the prize, represents that hope. As we conclude this analysis, we have to recognize that the footage we see of Shedeur Sanders isn't just content for social media, it's a blueprint. It's a blueprint for any young athlete who wants to know what it takes to be a superstar rather than just good. It requires a level of obsession that most people find uncomfortable. It requires being in the playbook while others are in the club. It requires being in the ice bath while others are in bed. And for the Cleveland Browns, the blueprint for their future might just be the young man currently grinding away in Colorado, waiting for his moment to prove that the best brands aren't just built overnight, they are built in the hours that no one else is willing to work. The 2026 NFL season can't come soon enough, because that is when the talk stops, the work is tested, and the next great era of football truly begins. Make sure you stay tuned, keep those notifications on, and watch closely, because the landscape of the league is shifting right before our eyes, and the shoulder fatigue in Cleveland might just be the opening act for the Shedeur Sanders show.